Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. Today we have the Castaway Cowboy. This is a 1974? 74, yeah, an hour and 31 minutes, 1974 film, starring James Garner. James Garner, the iconic tough guy from the 70s. He plays a cowboy who washes up ashore on the island of Kauai. How he got there? Well, he never really explains, but I have a feeling he was in a little bit of trouble. Um, he's rescued by a young boy, you see right here. Um, and he, let's see, Bowden? Burton? No, it's Booton. His name is Booton, which James Garner's character, Lincoln, constantly mispronounces over and over again, much to Booton's frustration. But yes, Booton finds him floating in the water off the shore, and a bunch of the Hawaiian natives there help him drag him out of the water and take him home to their hut, I guess. They where his mother takes care of him. Um, yeah, it's for me it was a little bit strange, and I kind of wondered if there was a cultural depictions may be out of may not be proper, or they may be a little out of date, because it just seemed weird that the two white people on Kauai decide to find the white guy, and all the native Hawaiian people just happen to be background characters. It's a different time, I guess. Anyway, apparently the mom is there farming with Booton. Mom's Henrietta, by the way, played by Vera James. She has a 10,000 acres or something like that. They have a lot of property. Of course, her husband's dead. Ding, ding, ding. It's another dead parent on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. We should have a drinking game. I'll just one drink a day shouldn't really be that bad. Um, yeah, so yeah, there's a dead parent in this one. Unfortunately, again, good old Disney trope. Um, so they're running a potato farm basically. The potatoes aren't doing too great, and also, but the biggest problem is wild cattle are roaming and chewing up the crops, and this is actually a real thing. Luckily, James Garner is there. He's from Texas, and he's a cowboy. He's the Castaway Cowboy. Um, he he is starts roping him in and taking care of him, and she says, "Hey, you know what? Okay, could you stick around a little bit and help us out, take care of this issue?" And he's sort of given the job to train some of the local native guys to take on uh, riding and roping these wild cattle to help protect their crops all over their large property. Even though most of the property is just wild, wide open space, it's they still roam that area, and they eventually make it over to their crops and chew things up. And I did some research on this, and that was actually a real thing. Of course, cattle wouldn't necessarily just come from nowhere on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They were actually brought there by explorers, captain of a ship, actually gifted some cattle to King Kamehameha in 1793, 94. And because of this gift, the king made it taboo, made it a bad thing to hunt any of these cattle. So they just bred like crazy and went wild, and they lived in the woods and took over so much. And yeah, so till about 1830 or so, then people were allowed to do something about it, but they were not able to be touched until that point. So that's a good 1870s. That's a good 30 plus years, almost 40 years. Um, these things were able to breed like a good couple generations, and well, I guess that kind of story is what inspired this. This is not based on a true story that I know of. It doesn't say that it is. But yeah, this is a real problem they had in the Hawaiian Islands. And James Garner's character, Lincoln, decides, hey, you know what? If we're going to do this, one, I'll train the natives to, one, not be afraid of these animals and teach them how to ride horses. And they honestly don't they're just goofing around. They seem like they don't care, but they're given the job. They work on the farm already, but they basically just like screwing around, swimming in the swimming hole, doing water slides, and it's James Garner's job to whip him into shape. They say they're trying their best, but they always look like they're just goofing around. They're mounting the horses backwards, and not you can't put the saddles on. And they keep falling off, and they can't rope anything to save their lives. Even just poles standing still, they can't rope them, much less an actual cow. Um, so he's like, hey, you know what? If we did actually capture these cattle, it's not enough just to try to keep them away. It's why don't we try to sell them? I mean, California and other places like that would probably love put them on a ship and send them to the mainland. They'd probably love to have these cattle for meat, milk, whatever, you know. And they're like, how are you going to get them on a ship? It's really hard. There's no proper docking on these Hawaiian Islands. At least at this point, there is no proper way to put something four-legged so easily on and off a ship, at least, especially large amounts of them. It's one thing to just to say, okay, here's a cow or two cows. It's another thing to say, hey, here's 50, you know, and put them on a boat. And part of this is his effort to try to find a way to make the mechanics work to get a large amount of cows onto a ship. So that does there's no drama in that necessarily. There's discovery, there's exploration in that, but he is a rival, of course. Henrietta is sort of she owes a lot of money to Calvin Bryson. And Calvin Bryson is this big shot rich guy who owns a lot of property. He's the one who's actually sold the property to originally, I guess, her husband, and she's been trying to keep up ever since, payments and things like that, since her husband died. And since the potatoes aren't doing too well, let's just say he'd rather have her pay the money, but even more so, pay the money and become his woman. Women are, of course, commodities, even back in this era. So yeah, women are property to be owned, and they can just barter their entire lives in order to save the farm. Henrietta's not about that. She's not going to do that. Even though the man is Robert Culp. Yes, Robert Culp from The Greatest American Hero and everything else. That's what I know him most from. But Robert Culp, and he plays something who's very not like his character on Greatest American Hero. He's very proper. He has no tough guy accent or anything. He's well dressed, and yeah, he's playing a different character than I've ever seen him play before. So it's kind of neat to see him up against James Garner, who's just rough and tumble, and you know, a Texan, you know. So he Bryson attempts in different ways to undermine their plans in training the native Hawaiians, and also rounding up the cattle, and also just having a success in any way. And Garner's there to match him for everything. So it's kind of a neat little struggle. Yeah, there's some action, cowboy fighting kind of stuff. There's also like a witch doctor, a native guy who really doesn't like James Garner at all, and he attempts to curse them, but he also starts throwing spears at him as to challenge him. So, yeah, I've told you way too much about the film. If you like old cowboy stories, but more of a fish out of water is another Disney trope. Everything's got to be a fish out of water kind of situation. And it also has to be Hawaii. Like, everybody's going to Hawaii. Hawaii was the new hot thing back then, before it was even fully a state. Well, it was a state by this point, I think. 74, obviously, yeah. But still. Yeah, so we got Dead Parent, Hawaii, fish out of water. Those are solid Disney tropes. So yeah, it's a fun little movie. It's didn't really just bowl me over or anything, but James Garner and Robert Culp. Unfortunately, the kid Booten, he has 2 volumes. He has this, and he has Screaming Across the Island tone. It's just that kid has such a range of normal to ah. Hopefully he's a singer. I don't know, but anyway, yeah. I think it's a neat throwback type of adventure that I think the whole family can enjoy. It may not become your greatest film ever or most favorite film ever, but it's a fun little slice of pseudo history. There's elements of history in it. Let's just say that, even if the story itself is not historically accurate, but it has pieces of that. So yeah, the Castaway Cowboy on Disney Plus. It's something I didn't even know existed until it came up yesterday in the random search. I looked through this whole list a bunch of times. I just didn't see it before. But yeah, give it a shot. But if you don't see it, you're not really missing a whole lot. But if you like James Garner, Robert Culp, and the like, and you haven't seen this, now's your chance on Disney Plus. Let's pick tomorrow's 418. 418. Let's see. 418. Oh, okay. No, okay, we haven't had this one. It's a series, animated series. Let's see what we got here. I don't know what it is. It's Phil of the Future. Phil of the Future. I'm gonna guess it's animated. Maybe not. Either way, it's gonna be something for 10-year-olds probably. So we'll watch a few episodes and see how it goes. I'll come back here tomorrow on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge.